we help everyone achieve their potential, number 3. So talk about that for a little bit.
Okay, so if someone is feeling defeated, discouraged, lonely, and we say, here's a box of food. Well, now they're not hungry anymore, but we haven't helped them to get beyond the situation that they're in. Realizing someone's value, going back to core principle 1, realizing someone's value means that God didn't create someone who is valueless, who had no potential. Sure. There is potential there. Now, I can't make everybody around me achieve their full potential. I can't even make myself achieve my full potential. But to encourage that through God, right? What he is acting out in that situation through me and through this relationship. So to help somebody not just stay in the situation that they're in, but to be able to increase in what they're doing.
Sure.
So we measure that, in the world, we measure that in amount of money you're making per year, or fill in the blank. I don't know. The number of points you score in the NBA game.
Yep.
Right. Well, it is to me. I used to play professional basketball.
That's right.
In my dreams. But, we measure those things. We measure potential by how have you raised, how many degrees do you have now? What have you done to show that you're upwardly mobile, right?
Right.
And that's not what it's all about. So the increase that we see is an increase that can only be felt internally, that can be witnessed by others through fruit, right? To go from having no peace to having peace, right? Well, I don't know if you're experiencing no peace and going to peace.
Right.
I don't know that. Right. I can see the fruit,
Sure.
Sure. So the potential that people have, it could be they need to go back to school, they need to earn more money or whatever. That potential is there, yes. But that's a side thing. The potential that's there really is God-given. Right?
Exactly.
Fruits of the Spirit.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And that sort of, you have those as, redemptive compassion, that redemption that happens in somebody's soul, and then that kind of works outward into the rest of their life, rather than let's help you make X amount per year, and then if you make X amount per year, then you'll have peace. It's like, no, that's not how it works,
Right.
And vice versa doesn't work either. When you have peace, you don't automatically are guaranteed a big paycheck.
That's right.
But there are ways that these things can help you in those practical areas of life, and the potential that you do have in some practical areas of life. But when we find our value in those things, then that's when we start getting unhitched from what is really good for us.
Absolutely. So practically, we might think of things like debt, right? Debt might create an anxiety in me, a stress in me that is not healthy on many levels, right? And that's a practical thing. So it's not all about money, right? It shouldn't be all about money, but that is a very real thing. I'm in debt and I need to get out of debt. That's a very real thing. But having peace through that makes a big difference now, right? I still need to get out of debt. That's still a huge thing in my life.
Right.
But to be able to walk through that with the peace and understanding, knowing that God's in control over this situation, not me.
Right.
Whew, that takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, it changes the entire situation.
Absolutely.
Very good. So number 4, we require, I hate that, I have to keep using this cheat sheet. We require mutual participation. So I think this would be partly the hand up in some ways.
Yes, so we've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. I think it's a great illustration, this redemptive compassion, the difference between what we call developmental compassion and charitable compassion is this hand up rather than hand out. So a handout could be, someone falls. This is a great illustration of things. Someone falls, they get seriously hurt, they can't get back up again, and I offer them a blanket because they're going to get cold. Well, that's helpful, right? I mean, they're going to get cold.
Well,
I
it's
just
like
gave
that,
them a blanket.
that old Christmas song, the child shivers in the cold. Give him silver and gold. Good plan.
Yeah, right. Silver and gold, they're really warm. But it hasn't solved the problem.
Right.
Person's still on the floor, right? So redemptive compassion then is coming alongside, and there's going to be a struggle, right? The person that's on the floor is struggling to get up, and the person that is helping them up is struggling to pull that person up. So there's that mutual struggle.
Right.
We call it mutual participation. It is a mutual struggle.
Right.
If there's no struggle, then probably nothing is actually happening.
Right. And when you're building relationships, there's always going to be those struggles, somewhat, conflict and figuring out things like that. But when we're rooted in our value.
We think of struggle and conflict as bad things. They can be bad things. In this case, not talking about a bad struggle. I'm talking about the kind of struggle that yields great results at the end.
Yep.
Has that potential
right,
to
that produces
great
the fruit
results.
that really, lasts. Yeah, very good. Number 5, we respond with wisdom and discernment. What is that all about?
Yeah, so in this heavily populated world, there are a ton of people for me to help, right? Everybody needs my help.
Right.
That is completely overwhelming. So who do I help? How do I help them? Do I help them at my own expense? These are all valid questions. These are good questions. So this is why we need wisdom and discernment, not from my feeble brain, but the wisdom and discernment that comes from God. So that has to come through prayer. That has to come through communication with Him, and He will help guide. There are hundreds of people, thousands of people, millions of people around that need my help, right? Well, I don't actually have any help to give.
Yep.
I have a Savior that I can introduce them to. He has the help to give, right? And He knows who needs help, what kind of help they need, and whether or not I need to sacrifice what I have to be able to help that person.
Sure.
Because if I do it on my own, what I'm going to end up doing is getting burnt out, overwhelmed, and I'm going to lose everything that I have.
Right.
All right? Losing all that you have is not a bad thing if you're doing it for the right reason.
Right.
But if I'm doing it on my own, I'm just going to end up a poor, miserable wretch,
Exactly. And it also helps us to know when we need to take a step back from some things to focus on our own relationship with the Lord and our own emotional, spiritual, physical state to be able to go back into relationships with, an emotionally healthy,
because
framework.
God knows when I need to be active and when I need to rest. And He knows that a lot better than I do.
Yes.
He knows what I need to give from resources that I have, and when I need to not give, when I need to say no. We think about saying no as being like such a heartless thing, but we would say no to our own kids. And when we were kids, our parents said no to us.
Sure.
I mean, I'm pretty confident that my parents said no more often than they said yes. But that's not a heartless thing, right? Sometimes we say no with the understanding that this is going to come later. You need to wait on this, or no as in it's bad for you, right? We do this with our kids all the time. But when it comes to charitable giving, like, I don't want to drive by this man on the street corner holding a sign because I will feel guilty, right?
And you've had people in class say that.
Yeah, I mean, right? So, you do feel guilty. Here's the opportunity right here.
Right.
But in my brain, I'm thinking all of the cynical thoughts. Well, this guy might be making more money than me.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't have any needs at all. He just happens to be standing there with a sign. right? So, but the wisdom and discernment that comes from God will tell me whether or not I need to give, what I need to give, and how I need to give.
Right.
Sometimes the answer is no.
Right.
But I know that for me, my responsibility is to be obedient to what God is telling me to do.
Right, right. So all of these, they kind of encompass into the last one, and we serve in ways that actually transform people. So we, as in, everyone watching, everybody listening, us, you, me, loving churches, we're made to serve in ways that transform. And the only way to do that is, not the only way, one of the more helpful ways to do that is to take these principles in mind when we're trying to, create transformation in our own lives, our own homes, our communities. So speak to that, and what does it mean to serve in a way that, transforms versus not?
Yeah, well, first off, I think that probably the catch that when we hear that, we think certain ways to transform. What if someone rejects the transformation? Or what if they start to transform and then they walk away? And I just want to say that is not on you. It's not on you. That is on them. That's not on you. So again, going back to core principle number 5, you are responsible for being obedient to what God asks you to do. Right? So sometimes you're going to be rejected. Sometimes that relationship's not going to work out. Sometimes transformation's going to come and then it's going to stop. And that's not on you. If you're being obedient, it's not on you. Right? So when we serve in ways that transform, the idea then is not necessarily that everyone is going to transform, although we would love that. It just doesn't happen
100%
always.
success rate.
Right?
It's like, I don't have a 100% success rate in my own life, so.
But serving in ways that transform means that I am not going to intentionally do something that is going to harm you. It's not going to hold you back. It's not going to keep you from being able to transform. Right? Now, the best way to transform it is to know Jesus, right? I mean, Jesus is going to transform you. So I have this solution to life. His name is Jesus. And if I don't spread that around, then I'm not doing something right. I mean, he's actually commanded us to tell, right? So we can't keep this to ourselves. So as we spread this knowledge and these things that will help others to be able to have this relationship with Jesus and therefore be able to transform. If we're putting up barriers, right? We're putting up barriers to that, then the transformation ends somewhere. And so this idea that we serve in ways of transforming, that we're going to pull down as many barriers as we can. That's kind of the opposite way of looking at it, right? We are going to not allow you to not transform. We're going to put that potential out there. And that is always evolving, right? That's evolving for us as Love Inc. That should be evolving always for other organizations, other Christian organizations, and other churches as well. It's always evolving, as in every now and again we're like, hey, there's a barrier that's set up here. We need to pull that barrier down. We didn't realize that it was there. We need to pull that down. And we work on those things. So it's not perfect. Yeah. But when someone comes to us in great need and all we can do is nothing, then we haven't helped them transform. Right? And the idea is to introduce everybody to Jesus, the love of Christ. Can I put a plug? Redemptive Compassion. Right. And we do this course. We have tried to do one every month. We do it different times of the day, different days of the week. It takes 8 weeks. It doesn't take 8 weeks to read this book. It takes 8 weeks for us as a class to go through, and we try to start one each month, We vary locations, so we try to make it convenient. So if you look online on our webpage, you look to register for Redemptive Compassion, you say, none of these classes will fit in my schedule. That's okay. Check back again next month, because it's constantly updating. It's constantly changing.
Yes. Very good, very good. Well, Alan, thank you so much.
Absolutely.